So, what makes a great facelift incision? There's a lot of thought and time that goes into making beautiful incisions around the ears after a facelift that creates a scar that's virtually imperceptible. So, I'm going to talk a little bit today about the things I do and why I do them and how that works to make beautiful incisions. The first thing is doing a good deep plane facelift. There can't be any tension on those incisions, otherwise, the tension on the scars will cause them to pull apart. They'll be widened and they'll be white. So, a sign of a good facelift is having no tension on those incisions, which allows them to heal beautifully into a faint little line that goes away with time. The second thing is in incision planning. And I plan my incisions meticulously based on what area they're in. And I'm going to go through my entire auricular scar to kind of show you everything that I do. In front of the ear, in that temporal hair tuft, I make the incision about 3 follicles into the hair. I preserve the temporal hair tuft, but make it so that hair follicles will grow through my incision line and help to camouflage them over time as the scar heals. It's both important for scar placement to preserve the hair that's there in the temporal tuft, as well as to make sure that hair follicles are able to grow through it. Then for the incisions around the ears, I carefully plan them within natural shadows or creases. So there's naturally a shadow that's in front of the ear where that auricular cartilage meets the facial skin. Then I usually go behind the tragal cartilage and I'll use the natural crease in front of the earlobe. These are natural shadows or lines that exist within the face, and so carefully placing scars inside of those lines leads to imperceptible scars. The tragal cartilage, or that little piece of cartilage in front of the ear, warrants a little bit more discussion because that's something that's very important and we talk a lot about in facelifts. Back in the day, a long time ago, they used to just cut that flat. They would cut off the tragal cartilage. They would make that area flat because it was much easier to close when you did that. But the problem is it looked very unnatural. And that flat tragus in front of the ear is kind of one of the tip offs that a facelift has been performed. So we now spend a lot of time worrying about preserving that tragal cartilage. I will typically, and most people, carry the incision line behind the tragal cartilage because it preserves the natural contour of it as well as allows you to get the skin in front. In some people, they have a deep crease right in front of their tragus and they don't have a lot of skin excess there. And so in those patients, I am able to take the incision just in front of the tragus to preserve the tragal anatomy, but also hide the incision in a natural line. Then as I carry the incision around to the back of the ear, I put it right in that crease behind the ear. That hides in an area where there's not really much light, and so should be able to wear your hair up, no problem having the incision hidden in that location. Around the earlobes is another area that warrants probably further discussion because a sign of a bad facelift is a pixie ear deformity, or when that earlobe gets pulled down because there's too much tension on the facelift. That goes back to my first point in the key part of having beautiful incisions is doing a good facelift to begin with. And so a pixie ear deformity suggests that there was too much tension on the underlying skin, that those muscles were never lifted. And so in pulling on the skin, it created some tension under the earlobe. And as it healed, everything pulled down and looks unnatural. And the pixie ear deformity is something that's easily prevented by having absolutely no tension on that incision line and doing a beautiful closure around the back of the earlobe. The final part of the facelift incision is the limb that goes into the posterior hairline. A traditional facelift incision would just be a back cut immediately behind the ear. There'd be a straight white line that would form maybe about an inch above the earlobe. The problem with that is when women would wear their hair up, it was very visible. I'm super sensitive to that, and I make my turn way up into the natural hairline. So there is no visible incision behind the ear in where the hair is growing posterior to the ear. So the only person that's ever going to see that is your hairstylist. You should be able to wear a ponytail, no problem, by 3 to 4 weeks after surgery, and it shouldn't be readily available that you've had a facelift in any of the scars around your ears. If you have any questions or comments or any ideas for topics that you'd like to hear, please leave them in the comments below.